Good morning. So good. We have a lot of people here. Hi, Patricia, Felicia, Kathy, Margaret, Denise, and Jessica. Great to see you this morning. And thank you to everyone who replied to my email yesterday. And for those of you who didn't, don't worry about it, because most of you, I'm pretty familiar with what it is that you are doing to grow your business. Okay, looks like we are all good and ready to go. We are going to talk today about hosting events to grow your business. Now, this is not a workshop that I teach from the stage, and it's not something that I teach in Leadership Academy. So it is not something that I have a PowerPoint for you. So interesting, as a speaker, you know, they always tell you as a speaker to watch yourself, you know, review yourself, get yourself videotaped. And I hate it. Does anybody like to do that? And I don't like to do that. But when I started on Monday night to prepare for this workshop, I thought, oh, I don't have a PowerPoint for this. So I wonder what I did last year in Success Circle. And so I went back and I watched the tape and reviewed what I had talked to the ladies about last week. And you know what? I was kind of exhausted at the end of watching me for an hour because I just gave tons of information. So good news and bad news. I didn't really change a lot. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to hosting events. And I've been hosting events for a really long time. You know, for those of you who don't know this story, when I was a little girl, I was a Girl Scout. And I loved Girl Scouts. Tuesday after school was my favorite day of the week. I just loved my Girl Scout troop. And unfortunately, like most school activities, it never really got started up till October, and it usually ended in April. So it felt like to me half the year I was missing my Girl Scout troop. And so I was about 8 years old. I started hosting my own meetings in my mom's living room. It was kind of like what Pittsburgh Professional Women is today. I gathered up resources. I put everybody in a circle. I told everybody what to do. A lot hasn't changed. But I also did refreshments and invitations, and things weren't so easy back then in the 1970s as they are today. So I have been hosting events for a long time. So kind of the bad news is I didn't cut a lot out of the workshop, but the good news is I decided to make a bonus workshop for you. When I watched my video from last year, I combined hosting an in-person event with hosting virtual events. That is just too much to do in 1 hour. So we're going to do a separate workshop on hosting virtual events. And you know what? I think it's going to be in person. I think I'm going to plan it for maybe the Wednesday or the week after our 7th week. And I'm going to look for a place that we can do it, maybe a retreat center, where we can talk about 2 things that we're not doing in the Success Circle: hosting virtual events and writing your professional bio. So I can't see your smile, so give me some thumbs up and some yays in this chat room if you think that's a great idea. Okay, so I'm really excited about that. And I want to also tell you that a really good idea that I had, let me just let this phone ring and go away. I don't know where it is. Let me just let that stop before so that I don't lose my train of thought. Good. It's behind me, Brian. Don't worry about it. Here's a great tip. When you're doing a virtual event, shut your phone off so those little distractions don't happen. I have some other tips on things like that to do. But one thing that I do want to tell you, because I think that everybody in this group, almost all of you are actually, well, we have 2 people who are not in Pittsburgh, but you're not really far away. You're in close enough driving distance. So Felicia's in Ohio and Cam is in Maryland. So you guys are close enough that you could come here for the day if you wanted to. February the 17th, I'm teaching a workshop called Speak to Grow Your Business. What we talked about, what we're going to talk about today will not be in there. What we talked about last week, there will be a little bit, but this is going to be more of like figure out your signature speech and getting booked as a speaker. That's going to be an in-person one on February 17th. So if you can make that, I think it would be really great enhancement to the classes from last week and this week, and I'll post that link to register in our Facebook group a little bit later today. Okay, so virtual events separately. Try to come and join me in person on February 17th, and let's talk about hosting events to grow your business. So I'm going to do a little bit of reading. Thank you again to those of you who got in touch with me. Here's who I heard from. Now, many of you I know in person, but I really want to make this specific to your needs. So Michelle Conti, who's an attorney, she wants to host client appreciation, a grand opening, educational workshops, and fundraisers. So Michelle's goal is to grow her list, to get her name known, and to attract media attention. And if you watched, or if you get a chance to watch her latest episode on Biz TV shows, I think you're going to see that it's going to be no problem to get Michelle media attention. She's the absolute natural on the calendar. Okay, Patricia Boswell, who's a therapist, wants to host workshops in person and webinars. Now, Patricia, if you're online, if you're on with us now, do me a favor and type in the chat what kind of workshops you want to host. So Patricia's a therapist and a really awesome blogger, and she has a great blog. She's a tremendous writer. Patricia, I hope you're going to come to the Yes You Can Write a Book retreat, because you are a really gifted writer. I'd love to see you there. She wants to host workshops so I know that she's a great blogger. I also know that she hosts financial wellness workshops. Oh, there she goes, financial wellness for women. Is that the ones that you wanted to do? I wasn't sure if you also, Patricia, wanted to host anything on people who you want to follow your blog. So let me know if that's in there too. And she wants to attract media attention, make some money, and grow her lists. She's a little bit overwhelmed in the case of a workshop. So you might feel a little overwhelmed today, but because I'm going to give you a lot of information, but I think in the long run, it's going to make you feel a lot more organized and prepared, okay? Now, Felicia, I don't know how I would categorize you. Are you an energy healer? What do you tell people that you do? Because you do a lot of things, so let us know how you would introduce yourself. She wants to do a retreat. She wants to do a client appreciation event, a book launch because she's writing a book, and maybe something to announce her new products or service. She wants to grow her list, attract media attention, get known, and she wants to do in-person and virtual. So you were my inspiration here, Felicia. When you said both, I was like, I think I'm gonna do a separate one. Okay, so Felicia wants to find a good title. So maybe we can do that in our Facebook group, but I know we have a one-on-one session coming up too, Felicia, where we can talk about that. And then Jessica Lang, who's a little quiet on this group, she's just introduced herself yesterday in our Facebook group. She's a massage therapist, a very gifted massage therapist. She is in the, I want to say, Lower Borough area. Tell me if I'm wrong on that, Jessica. Absolutely worth the drive to go and see her. She's an absolute gifted healer. She wants to have a grand opening. She's about to celebrate her 3rd year in business this May. Congratulations. And Jessica likes to speak when she has confidence. So we'll have to work on that. I think that sometimes as a gifted healer, and I bet Jessica, because I know you, I think you might be an introvert, or you're certainly more introverted than I am. That's not a hard thing to claim. But I agree with you. Jessica says that she thinks that when people meet her in person, they respond better to her. Look, I mean, a massage is a very personal thing. So I agree. When people meet you in person or when they see you speak, I think that's a great way to grow your lists. Okay. So what I've done today, folks, is I have given you 10 tips to hosting an event to grow your business, okay? 10 tips. Now, before I get into the 10 tips, what I want to know is, and some of you have already done this, what is your intention? Vandergrift, I couldn't remember where Jessica is. That's where she is. Absolutely worth the drive to see her. And do it before she has a session with me. So book your massage with Jessica before she has a session with me, because Jessica's going to be raising her prices. So make sure you give her a call, okay? All right, so before I get into my 10 tips to having a great workshop, I want for you to be very clear about what is your intention. So I just read from 3 or 4 of our Success Circle students, what is their intention? Your intention could be to grow your list, to market your business, to get more visibility, to get publicity, to launch a new product, to educate, inform, inspire. And definitely it's a way to position yourself as an expert. You know, people who are speaking or people who are leaders who are even hosting an event. Maybe you host an event and you're not the speaker. One of my longtime clients, she will not mind me telling you this, Kate Luckett is a lovely businesswoman, very successful businesswoman who had a bowl of lemons and she turned them into lemonade, has a bed and breakfast, and also has some investment commercial rental properties that she has. And I have always wanted to get Kate to host events. Why? Because she has a bed and breakfast, okay? And she doesn't want to speak. She just doesn't want to speak, and that's okay. If you don't feel comfortable speaking, it is not a good idea for you to be up in front of an audience. Your gifts are somewhere else. But you can still position yourself as a leader and authority and influencer simply by hosting the event. So I think that the people who are here today are mostly okay with speaking, or you wouldn't be here. But if you're not, or if you find yourself mentoring somebody that's not, this is not a requirement. There are people that have very successful business that don't speak on a stage, okay? But let me tell you something. When you speak on a stage or in a workshop or in a conference, or if you host something, you are absolutely setting yourself apart from your competition. You're putting yourself out there. People will notice you, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing to do. So the very first thing when you're putting in notes, hopefully what you're doing is you have a place where you're keeping your success circle notes. And when you get to the time in your business that you're planning an event, you'll go to this section of your note, and the number one thing is, what's my intention? And you want to stay crystal clear on that intention, because what happens is, as you get into these 10 steps of planning your event, you might forget that. That's natural and normal, okay? So you want to remember your intention. So the first step to planning an excellent event is make the decision. Is it going to be in person or virtual? Is it going to be an informational seminar? Is it going to be a social event? Is it going to be a fundraiser? That's a pretty simple start, making that decision. It could be, again, a celebration, such as a 3-year in business or a brand new business. Or it could be a client appreciation, client appreciation is a really great event to have, because you acknowledge the people that have helped you this far and you get them on board to help you with the next step. Okay, so client appreciations are really great to have. I want to tell you something about the celebration. Okay, so we have Lisa Kroll here in our group, who's a financial advisor, and we have Michelle Conti, who's not here today because she's in court today, but I know she'll be watching this recording. Now, Michelle Conti started her business in the fall, and Lisa started her business in the late fall, winter, okay? Got a new location, new business, new name, all those kind of things. So here's some really good news for you. That new 1 year of business celebration is good for a year. You got a year. You don't have to have that celebration the day, the week, the month that you started. It's not that structured or rigid. The same thing with a 10th anniversary or a 5th anniversary or 1st anniversary. You got the whole year to celebrate. So don't be frantic that if you started your business or you got incorporated or you got your LLC on February 10th, that if February 10th comes and goes and you missed it, it's gone. That's just not true. You have a year. So you can relax on that. Okay, so the first thing you do is you decide the type of event you're going to have. And then the second thing, the first most important thing that you need to do is decide on your speaker or your MC. Who's going to be the speaker? If it's going to be you, cool, because you have your calendar. You know when you're available. But if you're going to have somebody else either speak for you or MC for you, or if you're planning a retreat and you need somebody to cook for you or be your support person, that has to be decided first, because you need to make sure that they have that date available. Really difficult. I've sat on a number of charitable foundation boards where they plan their entire event and then they go ask for an MC or a guest host, or what do they call that? A person who is the chairperson. You know, they get everything planned. They pick the date, the venue, the location, everything. And then they can't get an MC because nobody's available that day because they didn't know something else was happening. So the first thing that you want to do is pick your speaker or your MC. If you are the speaker, If you're the person running it, then you want to pick your topic here. What is my title of my presentation going to be, or what's the theme of my event going to be? Okay, so those two things are pretty easy to do, the first two steps. The rest of the steps I'm going to tell you. I want to tell you right now. I'll take a drink here because that'll help me slow my talking down. I get so excited about your success, but I'm aware. I'm aware my speed picks up with the more enthusiasm I get. If you're the speaker, that's super easy to pick. That's super easy to pick the date and the location. What I was going to say is the next 7 things, what I want you to know about is you don't have to do these all in one day, the next 7 things. You don't even have to do them all in 1 week. So the next things, you know, as I tell you these and explain these to you, don't think you have to do them right in the very first hour of planning your event. They're important to do and they're important to know about, but they don't happen all at the same time. All right, so you've identified who the speaker is going to be, whether it's you or someone else. At that point is when you pick the date and the location. So here you need to be a little bit flexible. Again, if you have your own space, some of you have your own space. Lisa has her own space. Jessica has her own space. If you have your own brick and mortar space, this is an easy step for you. But for many of you, you're going to be hosting this somewhere else. You'll need to have a few dates when you call your venue to book. You might have to have a few venues in mind, all right? And let me tell you something. One thing that's remarkable about my events is my events are an experience. So I recognize that when I'm hosting an event, I recognize that it's a commitment and it's in a way almost a sacrifice. I don't really think sacrifice is the right word, but I think you'll get what I'm saying about people are spending their money and their time and their energy to get to me. And I want to acknowledge that, appreciate it, honor that, okay? And I don't want people coming into my events and being like, oh my gosh, parking is a nightmare. Or I could not find this place. I mean, I went around and around and around and this, you know what I'm talking about. And why do I know this? Because I've been that. I've gone to events that were really important to me that I really wanted to learn. And I made a lot of effort to get there and I couldn't find it and I wound up late and you come in the door and you come in frustrated. So I'm really careful about where I pick. It has to have, number one, it's very rare that I will go to a place that's not accessible for people with disabilities. But I have done it. I mean, there are certain beautiful historical buildings and places and events that it's just not possible. But most of the time, for a typical lunch and learn or breakfast workshop, that's a given. Number one has to, not number one, but way up there. It has to be accessible, okay? It has to have great parking. It has to be very easy to find. It has to be beautiful. So I'm planning an experience for my people. When they come in the door of the venue, they have to be able to find me. And sometimes that means I print up signs on my printer. To be honest with you, actually, Paul prints up the signs on the printer and then hang them on the wall, like, you know, workshop, speak to grow your business with an arrow, so that people easily get to the right place, so that when they come in the door, they're like, oh, hi, it's so good to see you. I'm so happy to be here. So they come in and immediately from the beginning, the energy is wonderful, okay? So that's what goes in to carefully and thoughtfully choosing your venue. Another thing that's important is the cost of the venue. So for that, you might want to be flexible on your days, because some places are better to book on a Monday evening than on a Friday afternoon. They're not going to be booked, so they might give you the room for free, or they might give you the room at a great discount, okay? So if I'm doing a restaurant or hotel, I like to pick off oddball days. I don't want my guests there when everybody else is there anyway. I want to look like the whole place belongs to me. So being flexible with your days is important, but also obviously, you know, having a day that most people can come to. And frankly, honestly, I have to tell you that that's finding the perfect day for people to attend, it's really tough. I mean, there are some days obviously that are better than others. I mean, Friday nights are not usually great nights. Sunday afternoons or Sunday mornings, obviously not good. But when it comes down to the rest of it, you really have to pick the date and time that works best for you and your speaker. And understand that not everybody, it's not going to work for everybody. And you can't try to please everybody by picking the right date, because then you're going to wind up upside down. But let me tell you something about that that's really probably not the typical advice you get from a business consultant. And the truth is that it doesn't matter if some people don't come. What really matters is that they know that you're teaching the workshop, so that they know what kind of solutions you provide. So a lot of people, we're going to go to talk about the media in a little while, they get very, very upset. And some people get, none of you would do this, but some people get personally offended if the media doesn't show up, because they put on a great party and the media didn't come. The important thing is that the media got invited. The more important thing is that the media actually opened your invitation and read it. That's actually the most important thing, is that they get your invitation and they open it and they read it and they're like, oh, I didn't know about her. I need to keep this. So see, they don't come to the event, but you've just made a connection. So don't get yourself worked up in who's coming and who's not coming. Don't spend your energy on who's not coming. I used to do that. I used to be very upset and disappointed. Particularly early in my career, somebody did say to me, will you please have a workshop on how to write an email newsletter? So if you don't know this, that how to write an email newsletter launched my speaking career. How to write a newsletter to grow your business launched my speaking career. The person that asked me to do it did not come to the workshop. And I taught it again and she didn't come. And I taught it again and she didn't come. And then I recorded it and she didn't listen. And I was so focused on that I didn't even realize that the whole point was for her to just put the idea in my head so that I would do it. And I spent in my early career, many years ago, some time worrying about who wasn't there. And I don't really remember exactly when it happened, but I do remember it happening when I got in alignment with, do you know what's really important to focus on is who is here and these amazing people in the room. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on these people and forget about who isn't here. It seems so basic to me now that I can't believe I didn't know that early on. As I said, I don't remember when that happened, but I do remember it happening. And I remember feeling a shift inside of how important that was that I got that. And since that has happened, it's so interesting. Sometimes I'll say, hey, I'm going to do an event. I'm going to do a workshop on this topic. And I think it's the greatest topic in the world. And not that many people sign up for it. And I'm like, really? I thought that was a good idea. That's interesting. But so let's say that instead of getting 30 people there, I got 8. It doesn't matter to me. Those 8 people at that workshop get the best of me that you can have. And I always say, what's important is who is here. And the right people are always here at the right moment. Okay. So sometimes it is funny because you're like, I thought this is a great topic, or I think this is a great idea, or I think this is a fantastic charity. And you're sort of surprised at the response or the lack of response of people, but always the right people are in the right place at the right time. I've really come to learn that. And I was going to tell you something else. Oh yeah, by the same token, on the opposite, I'll say, all right, we'll do this workshop. It sounds like a good idea to me. And then I get an unbelievable, overwhelming response of people. And I was like, wow, I had no idea. Let's look at this more, right? So keep that in mind. This is something that you'll learn and you'll get better at as you plan the event. And you'll get good at listening to people. So when you're teaching, those of you who are doing educational workshops, listen to what they're saying and listen to the questions that they're asking. And there's more workshops, maybe email newsletters, maybe blog posts, maybe ebooks or book topics. Your audience will tell you what they want. So pay attention when you get a lot of questions on a certain topic. All right, so number 4. So the first step was decide what kind of event you're going to have. The second is select your speaker or MC. The third is picking your date and location and carefully choosing your venue. By the way, I will recap these for you in your email. And number 4, super important, the big common mistake that people don't do, step number 4, and that is put everything in your calendar that you need to do for this event. Block some dates in your calendar, add everything that you need to do, everything that you can think about doing, signing the contracts, sending email invitations, creating your contact lists, everything that you need to do, you want to write on a piece of paper and then put it into your calendar so that it gets done. Okay. I have told you guys, so I'm hosting a retreat, a writing retreat. What I do for each of my events is I have special folders. I'll hold that up so you can see it. This is a folder for my Yes You Can Write a Book retreat. I also have some clear zipper labels, but this is the kind of a special event, so I wanted to put a special folder in it. Everything that has to do with this retreat is in this red envelope. So when I get menus from the hotel or contract or something from my guest host, anything that is printed goes in here. If I would make a list, it would go in here. That way I can easily find it whenever I have the time or set the time aside to work on that event. Another thing that I do is, this is something I didn't learn early and I want you to learn this now, and that is block time on your calendar to do these important things, and including, don't schedule something else the day of your event. I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking, because for years I worked, if I had an event at 1 o'clock, I would work from 9 to 12 and then go to the event. Don't do that. You need to be your absolute best self. So even though you are technically maybe not seeing clients, you can technically work that day, because this is a marketing and a business strategy event for your business. Don't say that you're not working, you're speaking at an event, because this is work. It absolutely is. Don't see clients that day. Don't book clients for the next morning. When I do event, because I put so much energy into my events, my in-person events, I don't see any clients the day before, and I don't see any clients the day after. Now, I'm not staying in bed, relaxing, or doing nothing those days. I'm just not doing anything extra that requires me to being outside. Okay, so I will sometimes, and Jessica has done this, I have gone to see Jessica for a massage the day before. I used to go get massages the day after or 2 days after big events. I'm talking about big events now. Success Circle, a 1-hour webinar doesn't count as a big event. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But I used to go get massages after events when I was completely depleted and exhausted, and I couldn't get an appointment once. When Jessica was working at ESPA, I couldn't get an appointment, and so I booked it for the day before, and oh my gosh, I was in way better shape by getting that massage before, because I was very, very grounded and relaxed and focused and not all keyed up. I gave a really great, better event. So that's something that you could do. I've gotten my nails done, but I still do those last final things. What used to happen would be the day before an event, I might have a client or two, have some things that I was doing, and I would get a lot of questions. Hey, I'm not feeling well. What if I can't come? Or, hey, I can't remember if I registered. Beth, is it okay if I bring a friend? And I can't find my tickets. Can you tell me the location again? So you now know, with the the crazy number of emails that I send you all to remind you how to get into things, I do those email reminders so I don't get those calls, and I set up policies to avoid that. But what would happen was I would be, working my business, hosting an event, and managing this crazy amount of calls and questions. Look, when I started hosting events, I mean, the internet is 20 years old now, I think, but the internet was still kind of new to a lot of people when I started hosting my events. 12, 13, 14 years ago, buying something on PayPal was very uncomfortable for a lot of people, okay? Buying a ticket to come to a workshop of a person that you never met or never heard of, it made people very nervous. So those kind of things don't happen anymore, right? Those barriers have been broken down, but that's a lot of what I was dealing with. And I can't tell you how many times Paul and I would be driving in the car and somebody would be saying, all right, so I click this button, and a smart person, just not somebody used to dealing with the internet. And I would say, click there. All right, now do you see the little button in the right, top right? Okay, click that. And sometimes I would just say, you know what, why don't you just give me your credit card number and I'll register you? And Paul would be like, Beth, why don't you just go to their house and drive them? But this was a time when it was all new. It was all new. And I guided a lot of people through that change. And now every one of you are very comfortable and confident at clicking and registering for something. And the people who are coming to your events will be too. But that's a really big reason of why I started blocking my time, so that I wouldn't be frantic and overwhelmed and show up at the event exhausted, right? So block your time before and after. And really important, I want you to block time for follow-up. Isn't that a great idea? If you're doing this to get new clients, it's really important that you put into your calendar, follow up with people who attended. Do that before you even, when you're in the planning session. You know, I'm going to talk about marketing, I think. Yeah, I'm going to talk about marketing. So I'll tell you a little bit about this. But a year ago right now, I was launching my Leadership Academy for the fall. And so I had a Leadership Cafe workshop, an invitation only Leadership Cafe, where I invited people and I invited women leaders to downtown Pittsburgh to talk about leadership issues. And I did it at breakfast, and it was great. A lot of people came. And the next day I got an airplane to go and spend 6 days with Steve Harvey. Now, when I spend time with Steve Harvey, whether it's 1 day or 6, depleted, completely depleted when it's over. If you think that hanging out with me is a lot of energy, he has 100 times more energy and he's 10 years older than me too. But when I am with the Steve Harvey Success Group, we work 5 days in a row, from about 7 in the morning until as late as 1 in the morning. The latest we've been is 1 in the morning. TV cameras on the entire time. Full hair and makeup and high heels the entire time. And you are on a crowd of people around you the entire time. So when I come home from Steve Harvey, I'm depleted. So 5 days of that and then 2 days of travel, I'm gone. And I mean, it's a good week before I get back my energy reserves. And so when I looked at my calendar and I saw that I had this Leadership Cafe, and then I was leaving the next day, I actually hand wrote thank you cards to these women for coming before they came. Because Leadership Academy is a big deal. It's not an easy decision. It's not a simple decision. And a thank you card makes a big difference. So I knew who was coming because they had registered to come. So I wrote them out. I didn't mail them until I got to Atlanta. But I wrote them before because I was afraid that I would be stuck in that frenzy, and I knew it wasn't going to happen. And kind of after 3 weeks go by, it's a little late for something that special to send a thing. It would have been okay if I had done it, but I knew how important it was. And by planning that, by being in a strategic mode instead of a reactive mode, it happened and it got done. Okay, so number 4 step is add everything to your calendar and block off the day before and the day after. Now, the number 5 step to your successful workshop is to create your invitation lists. Who am I going to invite? Who do I want to come to this? I make an invitation list for every event that I do. I really do. Who do I want to come? I have a really big email list, probably 10,000 people on my email list now. And so everybody gets an email invitation. But even if it's a workshop such as the one I'm doing, Speaking for Success, I look through my list of people and I say, oh, this is perfect for her. And I haven't seen her for a while. I really need to get in touch with her. I make a list of who I want to come and who I want to see there. Now, I might not call them because of the way my business is right now. I might send her a Facebook message or send her an email, or it might be somebody that I call. Or I might just send them an email. Hey, I was thinking about you, and I think this would be a great workshop for you. As a matter of fact, when I was writing, and this is true, I wouldn't say this if it weren't true. I might say to them, here's what might happen. I might be writing my PowerPoint presentation, and somebody will pop into my head, and I can actually see myself speaking to her in the audience. I will write her name down, or I will stop what I'm doing and go send her an email and say, guess what? I was just writing my PowerPoint for Speaking for Success, and I saw you in the audience. Did you see that workshop? I'd love to have you there. And then I'll call me if you want to talk about it. And sometimes the phone will ring instantly because I operate energetically on a level like that where I can connect with people energetically that way. Felicia, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. So the invitation list, who do you want to see there? Look through your already existing email list. Look through your client list. If you don't have a list, go through your accounting records, your billing. Who's paid you money? There might be people in there that aren't on your invitation list. Who do you want? Who are your neighbors and friends? Who do you want to celebrate this event with you or to learn this knowledge? Look in your Facebook contacts, look in your LinkedIn contacts, look in just who you've sent emails to or who you've received emails, okay? Again, this doesn't have to be done at one specific time. You can send your invitations out and add somebody later. So don't get stuck in the, I have to have the list done before I send the invitations. Yeah, get the list done, but if you think of people later, you can send them an invitation later, all right? Now, I don't have this on the list, but I'm going to add it here. How are you going to invite them? What kind of invitations are you going to use? It's a really important decision. And once you make that decision, it needs to be put in your calendar. Are you going to do a printed invitation? Do you have to have a graphic designer design that? Is it something that you can do by yourself? Are you going to go just buy cards at Target and send them in the mail? That's fine to do. If that's what you want to do and if it's appropriate for the event, it's absolutely fine. The important thing is that you don't get overwhelmed and that the people get the invitation in a timely manner, okay? I use a lot of email. I do a lot of email invitation. I like, again, I'll share these resources with you. I really do not like the Evite. I'll write this in our chat here. I don't really like Evite. I've gotten them. I don't care for Evite because there's ads all over it. And it's free. And I don't want you to look cheap. I want you to look a little bit more professional. One that I really love, and it's not free, but it's very affordable, Paperless Posts, is a great way to send email invitations that are very beautiful, okay? Another system that I use that you probably have all heard of, and if you haven't, I'll post somebody that you can follow up with, send out cards. Send out cards is a great way to do a printed invitation without having to pay a graphic designer. Go to the printer, stamp a lot of envelopes, label a lot of envelopes. Send out cards is really nice. And I've used send out cards for some of my high-end things. Yeah, Felicia says she used to use send out cards. It's wonderful. What I like about it is you don't have to print 500 cards. You can create a card, invite 10 or 15 people. Yeah, Patricia, you have send out cards is kind of, it isn't kind of. Send out cards is a multi-level marketing company, so you have to get it from somebody. It's really affordable. I think it's $30 or something to sign up. And then the cards are very affordable. So I'll put a woman, the person that I recommend, highly recommend, because it is a multi-level marketing company. And what I don't want any of you to do is have somebody try to recruit you into their multi-level marketing company, because none of you need to be selling send out cards. So there's a woman named Joy Klohanitz that I like and use, and she's here in Pittsburgh. She's in the Greensburg area, and she'll sign you up for an account without trying to beat you over the head to join her company, and she'll also teach you how to use it. So I'll share that information. If you want to look her up, don't go look her up now. Be here right now. But I'll send you her name. So send out cards is great because you create that card. It's a beautiful printed piece, and you might send it to 10 people, and then you can go into your send out cards account the next time you think of somebody, and you can just send that one card at a time. All right. And Margaret, I'll come back to answer your question in a moment. All right. Let's see here. So your invitations. So your invitation list is next, and how are you going is now what we're talking about, and how are you going to invite people? Are you going to do it by email? Are you going to do it by mail, invitation in the mail? Are you going to do it by phone call? Are you going to do a little of all three? Okay. Another thing you could do, some of you have probably done, and Patricia, this would work well for you, is maybe having a printed flyer invitation and then go to a networking event. And through a networking event, invite people, okay? So sometimes it's a combination of all three. So don't get overwhelmed at this point, all right? Because there really isn't a wrong way to invite people, but you can just get better. Have you ever received an invitation that you thought was awesome, that you thought was really professionally well done, really beautifully well done? What was that? If it was something like that that you liked, then do it. Now, I do want to say something. I think there is a system. I think that, remember when I told you about how in the beginning, people weren't accustomed to going to a website to register for an event. Everybody did things by phone call. So I helped people transition into that ease of using the internet to register for things. But now there's a different problem. So the different problem is people have so many invitations and so many emails that they don't see everything. So in some cases, you can't just rely on an email. And never, I don't want any of you hosting a Facebook event, okay? Let me talk about that for a moment because I think it's important. There's a spa here in Pittsburgh that has something that I really like to go to, and I went on their website and I couldn't find it. It wasn't on their calendar of events on their website. So I have met the owner. I don't really know her, but I have met her briefly. So I sent her an email. I was on her website and I was trying to sign up for her email newsletter and I couldn't find it. So I sent her an email and I said, I'm trying to find this event that you have on January 22nd. I want to come and I can't find it anywhere. And she sends me back on her cell phone, it's on Facebook. And it's for, actually what she said was, it's sold out. It's on Facebook. You're going to have to go to my Facebook page to find it. And I thought, oh, okay. But what did that just tell me about her business? That was a really unprofessional way to respond. I also know that her spa is really struggling, and I was really surprised. Now, the reason it's sold out is because her space is pretty tiny. I think she can only fit 6 or 8 people in there, right? But if you try to grow your business on Facebook, you know, I know that they say there's a lot of people on Facebook, but I think you're really shutting out a lot of people. I think that you need to go back to, if you have a website, put your events on your website. I think email newsletters are really still very important, even though people are overwhelmed. But the point is that keeping it to only Facebook, I think is a mistake. So I don't want to see any of you hosting an event on Facebook. So what's a good event to host on Facebook? Let's say that your kid is on the swim team, your child is on the swim team, and you're doing an ice cream social fundraiser. Yeah, that's perfectly appropriate. Everybody's on Facebook. You probably have a swim team group on Facebook. All the kids are on Facebook. That's totally appropriate. But your business growing thing really needs to be put on your own websites or in your own email newsletter where people can find it. Now, you can share it on Facebook, and I want you to share it on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and YouTube if you're there, and all of the places if you're there. But that's not where you should host it, because that's not what the message that we want to send out about your business. Okay. So how do you like to get invitations? What do you like? One thing that you want to be sure on, so I can finish this thought, is that you can't rely on them seeing an email. So it might be a series of more than one thing. It might be an email followed by a phone call, or it might be a card in the mail followed by an email, or a card in the mail followed by a phone call, something like that. If you're inviting a small list of people, that's not overwhelming to do. You know, sometimes I call people on the phone to invite them to things, and they're just flabbergasted that I've called them on the phone. It's a part of my planning. They're like, you're so busy. How do you have time? I can't believe you called me. And I laugh because this is my business. So of course, this is important to me. And so I set aside time to make phone calls. Okay. Number 6, make the decision on your food, refreshment, and gifts. And I'm going to address your question here in this, Margaret. Your food, refreshments, and gifts. So are you going to have food? Yes or no? Are you going to have just drinks? Yes or no? You know, Felicia Weinstein is here, or I'm sorry. Felicia, I just had a vision of you doing a book party. It wasn't you that did a book party. Somebody who reminds me of you had a book party. One of my other clients who's an author, and she wrote a book, and I can't think of the name of the book right now, but the book party was in May of this year at a country club, and I went, and it just tickled me because I could see that everything, everything that I suggested that she did with her refreshments. She went a little bit overboard. She spent a lot of money on her refreshments. That's really not necessary. But she went a little bit overboard. But a lot of people who were coming to her event were people in recovery. So there was no alcohol at this event. And it was really interesting because it was me who pointed out to her, are you sure you want to have champagne? And she was like, oh, maybe I don't. It's not required that you have alcohol at any event. I don't think alcohol is appropriate at business events. I really don't. But there's some things that you want to be very carefully considerate of when it comes to refreshments, okay? If it's a standing event, do we really want people to have food that needs a fork? Okay, so these are things that you want to think about and talk about with your venue. Obviously, we have the Facebook group if you have questions about this. Now, Margaret is asking, what do you think is the best number of people to have at a workshop to keep it intimate if I'm selling a product? And how many do I invite to get that ideal number in attendance? So, Margaret, that's going to depend on your lists, okay? There's not a hard and fast, like how many people get the invitation doesn't equal how many people read the invitation. So let's go back up to step number 1. What's your purpose? So how many people do you like to have in the room? Now, if I want to keep it intimate, for me, intimate is 8 to 12. 8 to 12. So you want to invite, as to get started, you will learn as you begin to do things with your list. That means you invite 80 to 120. So about 1 in 10 is what you hope for. And that includes people who actually open the invitation, actually read the invitation, and have that date and time available on their calendar. So it's not that people necessarily aren't interested in your stuff. There's a lot of things to consider, right? In fact, we have somebody was just saying to me today, I think it was you, Felicia, she would really like to come to my Yes You Can Write a Book retreat, but she's already booked that weekend. You're just never going to find. And I think you should cancel whatever it is, Felicia. But that's okay. There will be more retreats. There will be more retreats. But so there are going to be people who want to come. There are things that I want to go to every day. Every day there are things I want to go to, but I can't because I have a commitment to something else. So, oh, there's something else I want to go backwards and say. So I don't know if I answered your question, Margaret, but invite 10 times the number of people that you want to come. And you can tell me more if you want to about what you think about intimate. Also, like, how many can your venue hold? Thinking about the room that you want to be in. How many people would comfortably sit in there? And how many people would be too few and the room would look empty, right? So oh, good. I like 12 is a nice number. In fact, this Yes You Can Write a Book retreat, I would be really happy if we had 12 women in the room. But I would be totally okay too if we had 20, but I really don't want more than 20 because I want to be able to have a relationship with every person in the room. So yeah, what if 22 people come? I'm definitely not going to be devastated if 22 people come. But when I'm planning a retreat, I'm not thinking of 50 or 60 people to come. 50 or 60 people is a lot of people to have in the room to be growing your business because you can't talk to all 50 or 60 people of them. Don't ever think that you have a failure if only 3 people show up. Here's a great tip. All right, I'm getting off track here. I might go a little bit 5 minutes later, but I think this is a good tip for you. Let's say you do have an event that you want to have 12 to 15 people, and you think it's a great topic, you have a beautiful invitation, you have a great venue, you have great food, and for whatever reason, only 4 people are coming. You really want to have 8 people in the room or 10 people in the room. So what you want to do then is you want to give away tickets, and that's totally fine. I will tell you a secret if you keep it within here. My first leadership academy, I wanted 12 people in my first leadership academy. This isn't really anything to be embarrassed of at all. I think I had 10, maybe 9. I think I had 9 people pay for that. That was huge. It was $1,500, and that was 4 or 5 years ago. So putting something like that out on the internet at that price in Pittsburgh, that was a pretty big deal, but I wanted 12. So I did 3 scholarships. And I'll tell you something else. I didn't give the scholarships away. I gave them discounts. Leadership Academy is an expensive event to do. So I think I let these 3 women come at cost. But then I had 12 people in the room. And when I took my pictures of Leadership Academy, 9 was great. 9 was very successful. 9 plus me, that's 10. That's a nice group. But in my head, I wanted 12. So you don't need to bring necessarily your mom or your sister or your neighbor. This isn't a Tupperware party. You don't just need a hot body. You want a quality person. And so you can bring a gift, a ticket to somebody that you respect or admire, but fill that room up, okay? So I went off track a little bit. Let me come back. We talked about food refreshments. You guys have been to enough events. I don't need to talk about that. But something I do want to talk to you about is a gift. Do you want to have a gift for each person who attends? And what will that gift be? When I do my retreats, people get gifts and they get more than one. And that's the most fun for me, is figuring out what's going to be that gift and what they get when their looks on their faces when they see it. And I don't like to give crappy stuff, and neither do you, and you don't like to receive it. So I put a lot of thought into it. And when you have less than 15 people, it's easier to buy gifts for people. And when you're thinking about if you're charging for your events, okay, you consider the costs of gifts in the ticket price. Okay, if it's a free event, okay, so let's say we have Michelle Conti and Lisa Kral who are going to be doing grand openings, so they're free, but they're going to give gifts. I hope you're both going to give gifts, and not pens. Pens are not a gift. A pen with your logo on it is not a gift. Neither one of those women would do that, and neither would you. But if you want to put your logo on something, what would be a gift? Would it be a notebook like this? Would it be maybe a Padfolio? Maybe a mug? I really like maybe the very beautiful water bottles, maybe the more modern things. Those are nice kind of gifts. Journals are great gifts, practical things like that. So if you guys have ideas for gifts, that's great too. I've given people tea bags. I've given candles. Yeah, different, just small things. I usually go with my intuition on what should I give as a gift, and I spend some time thinking about it, okay? No, well, yeah, Felicia's asking for a virtual event too. So obviously it would be a digital gift, and that would be a great idea. So thank you for attending. As a bonus, here is an ebook. It's mine or somebody else's, okay? Yours or someone else's. Okay, now the next thing, how are you guys doing? Are you okay? Am I overwhelming you? I hope I'm not overwhelming you. Remember, you don't do all of this. I'm telling you all this at one time, but you don't do all of this at one time, all right? We are going to go a little bit late. The number 7 is, how are you going to take registrations, RSVPs? How are you going to do payments? If you're going to do payments, making the decision on how you're going to do that and process that ahead of time is really important. It's really important that this is professional and it looks professional, that it's polished, and that it is easy. Have you ever tried to give somebody money for something and it's hard to do? Don't be that way. Make sure if you're taking money on your website or if you're taking money somewhere else, don't make it complicated. When I did my retreat last year up in the Jacqueline House, I did the Jacqueline House in New Wilmington. They only had 6 rooms and the rooms sold out immediately. So we found another bed and breakfast up the street, which was also very beautiful, but that particular woman did not believe in taking credit cards. So she wanted everybody to mail her a check with a deposit ahead of time, and then she wanted them to pay with a check. And some people did. I think 3 people stayed in that bed and breakfast, but she could have sold out. It's just, people don't, I mean, I don't know about you. I don't even know where my checkbook is. Okay, you need to take, as a bed and breakfast, you need to take credit cards and stop complaining about credit card fees. You're making a lot of money on this beautiful room for just one night. So bump up your fee by 3% and take the credit card, okay? What you spend in time of like being on the phone and explaining it to them and then getting it and then going to your mailbox is way, way more than 3% that you've lost in your time. Okay, so make it easy for people to register. I don't want you to have somebody send you an email and then you call them and get the credit card number on the phone. You know, get a system. That is the reason why I use Eventbrite. I've taken credit cards since 2002, but most credit cards aren't set up for events. You know, registration sheets, name tags. Eventbrite does all of that. So Eventbrite, which you all are familiar with because that's how I host my events, is free. If you don't charge anything, you don't pay anything. If you do charge, there's a fee for using their credit cards. It's not cheap, but it's so worth it because all my things are organized, and it's like having a personal assistant that I don't have to pay. So how are you going to take your registrations, RSVP payments? And then number 8 is marketing. How are you going to promote marketing? How are you going to promote this event? Are you going to send an email? Are you going to go speak about it in public? Are you going to go to networking groups? How are you going to promote this? Are you going to send a press release? Okay, we could do 2 hours on like each one of these topics, couldn't we? I don't want you to feel overwhelmed, because remember, we're going to do something together in person on virtual events, but we will cover a lot of this marketing and promotion. All right. Don't forget to include follow-up in your, follow-up is a part of your marketing. So when you're making your marketing plan, don't forget to include follow-up. Thank you cards, thank you phone calls. Maybe you have offered a special promotion that expires on a certain number of days. Whatever day that ends, you want to be available and engaged on that day and that. Okay, number 9, you'll like this one. It's getting easier now. We're going downhill now. Number 9 is to arrange for your support staff. Your support staff. Who is going to call you? I was thinking, I was writing this last night, and I had this memory that I have to tell you. I was at the Sheraton Station Square teaching a leadership workshop, and I had my handouts. I didn't put handouts in here. Darn, thought of something else. My handouts. Where should I put that? I don't know. I guess we're going to have an 11-step thing. Create your handouts, and if you need them, if you're going to use your handouts. And what I had created for this leadership conference a couple years ago, I don't know, 2008, 2009, I did a leadership conference at the Sheraton Station Square, and everybody got a notebook, a little, folder, and it had handouts on the left and right. It had an agenda. It was a half-day thing. So it had an agenda, it had the handouts, it had some of the speaker information, and there was a gift certificate from SPA. And I was up on the stage making announcements. So welcome, good morning, and welcome. I'm so glad to see so many of you here, probably 150 people in the room at the time. And my name is Beth Caldwell. I want to welcome you. Thank you for being here. And I want to call your attention to your folder. If you open this folder up, you'll see the agenda right here on the left. So I'm up on the stage in front. I step away from the podium. I open it up. Here's the agenda right here. And if you look over here, I have a special gift for you from ESPA, and it was a good gift. I think it was a $50 gift certificate. And so I'm up on the stage and I'm talking, right? And I'm talking, and this one woman is like, with my microphone, I stepped down. Don't do this, by the way. Don't do this. I stepped down off the stage. I walk through carrying my microphone. I open her folder because I packed these. I personally stuffed these folders, right? Or maybe Brian and Kevin did, right? But I went in, I pulled out the gift certificate, I handed it to her. I went back up on stage and continued talking. Don't do that. Oh, it was kind of funny to do that because she was like, oh, I didn't see it, right? But what happens is that people get excited when they come to your events, and you're going to make changes in them, and that can make them a little bit nervous. And so have somebody there to answer those questions. Look, when you're having somebody come to an event that is going to change their life, they're going to be nervous on the way getting there. They might make a wrong turn. They might miss it. You might be like, seriously, how could you miss that sign? Look, they're nervous. You're going to be changed. So just be aware of that and have somebody there that can help them when they come in the door. Okay? And don't be, I think that I was judgmental to people on that. Like, really, how could you not find this place? Did you not see the directions? But I didn't realize what I was doing at the time. So understanding that. So have a support staff. Now, here's one thing that you want to avoid this mistake that I made. People who call themselves event planners or event managers, some of them are very gifted, but some of them are really good event planners because they're very analytical people and they're very structured people. And so I had a couple people come to my bigger events that I paid them, and they did a really good job at getting like all the checks lists done, and they counted the people in the room, and my registration papers were very organized, but they didn't give a warm welcome to the person who came in the door. I'd rather have a pile of messy papers and a warm greeting at the door. So be careful who you choose as a support staff, okay? One little thing too is for a long time, I used to do a registration sheets and then name tags. So they would come into the event and be, what's your name? Beth Caldwell. Oh, let me see. Is that with a C or a K? I don't see you on this list. So, right? You've done that. You've been there to have that done. Look, just have the name tag there. When the name tag gets picked up, they're checked in. At the end of the day, the name tags are left. You know who didn't come. There doesn't need to be a registration sheet. Sometimes we make things harder on ourselves, things harder than we need to. And, just because it's the way things have always been done. All right. Support staff. In your support staff, include a photographer. Oh, how many times I wish I had a photographer at an event in the early days and I didn't. Have somebody taking photos of the event. It could be a professional. It could be a volunteer. It depends on where you are in your business and what the event is. If it's a grand opening, I probably want you to have a really good photographer there. If it's a women's social event, celebration, totally fine for somebody besides you to be taking photos on their iPhone, okay? So having a photographer. So my book launch, I had a professional photographer. Other events, I usually just have somebody that I say, would you take photos? Can I give you my phone? And will you take photos? Now, anytime you have somebody doing photos for you, a really nice thing to do is give them a list of the photos you want. Otherwise, I've even hired professional photographers in the past, and they send me 177 photos, and none of them are any good. But they're all very artistic, right? So if you're going to be using your photos for marketing, tell them what you want. I want a photo, so if it's a book launch, I want a photo of me being introduced by Anne. I want a photo of me and my entire family. I want a photo of whatever you want. And make sure the photographer does that. Now, Patricia, I answered your question last night in Facebook, but I'm glad you bring it up again. If participants are in photos, or if I do a video, do I need a release from the audience? So here's the thing. You can't ask your publicist for legal advice, okay? So there's that disclaimer. I've told you that before. What I do, and check with your attorney because you're different than me. But what I do is I say, we're going to take a photo here and put it on Facebook. If everybody okay with that? That's probably not legal, Patricia. So, but what I will say at my event is I'm going to take a photo. My photographer's going to come up here and take a photo, and this is going to be in my marketing. So if you don't want to be in the photo, now's a good time to go to the ladies' room, but I hope the rest of you will come up right up here and do that. Probably not legal. Okay, I have attended workshops, Patricia, where there's going to be live video streaming happening, and they just, at registration, they have a form that their attorney has either prepared for them or a form that they may have gotten off the internet, and we have to sign and fill that out right there. I've never seen anybody not sign this. But if they don't sign it, then I would move their chair to a place where the camera isn't. Okay, that's the non-legal advice that I can give you on that. All right. Yeah, I'm at number 10. Oh, it's only 11:01. I still have a couple tips for you. My number 10, not such a difficult step, and that is when your event is over, review what you did and make a mental note or write down a note of what you're going to do better next time. So there's no failures in progress. Whatever you didn't care for, in the early days, I would say things like, we need to bring tape. We need to bring scissors. We need to have a trash can. I was using peel and stick name tags, and I didn't have any place to put them. So the next time I went to that hotel, I said, can I put a note on my calendar, for the next event, be sure to ask for a trash can. So actually ahead of time, when I was setting up the venue, when they were asking me how I wanted it set up, I said, could I have a trash can maybe right inside the door and at the registration table? Simple things like that, review and improve. All right, thank you for those of you who are staying a little bit late. And let me take a sip. And I would like some ideas from you on doing a retreat together. A success circle retreat. Where would be a great event to have it? A great venue to have it? Where would you like to do it? What day of the week would you like to do it? Put that all in our Facebook group later so we can talk about it. I have a place in mind. I'm going to look up as soon as we hang up. Oh, wait. I was telling you before about blocking time. When I'm doing a webinar like this, I don't block the whole day for this. But when I did my first webinar, I did. Webinars they've gotten so much easier. I did my first webinar, I think 3 years ago this month, for Steve Harvey. Yeah, it took me several hours to get things set up, and we had 2 computers, because 3 years ago, webinars were not as easy as they are today, okay? So the first webinar, you wanna take a half a day set aside for that, because you need to be very familiar and look good, and look like you know what you're doing. But now, because I teach webinars for Steve Harvey, like twice a year. I do them 10 weeks in a row. So 20 times a year, I do a webinar. I've had a lot of practice. I've done over 100 of them now, plus the ones I do for Pittsburgh professional women. So now I don't have to block my whole day to do a webinar. As a matter of fact, today I'm going to go hang out with my dad while he receives chemotherapy after this. But what I will do, though, is I will block the morning. So I have Success Circle here with you on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. My Wednesdays are blocked from 9 until 12, because I need to get ready for this webinar. I need to be here on time. I need to be fully here and not distracted. And when it's over, I need to get your recording prepared. If I had scheduled a client for 11:45 or 12 o'clock, okay, so my dad went to chemo at 7 this morning. I told him I'll be there between 12:30 and 1, because if I leave here for chemotherapy or a client or a lunch, I'm not going to get that recording done if it's not scheduled. So I block until 12 so that you hopefully have your recordings by 12:30. Now, in the olden days, in the long ago days, a year ago, it took me 45 minutes to download a recording and upload a recording and send it to you in an email. Now it's almost instant now. It's gotten so much better. It's gotten so much better, but I still block that time. So it's really important. So look, if I have, if I'm done before noon, I have a little time to maybe return a couple phone calls or go early, you know, whatever, but make sure you guard your time and pad your time accordingly. All right, so let's go to my tips for you. And I want to tell you something. I actually considered doing the whole hour on just these tips, because but when you all told me what you're doing, I thought, no, I got to do the 10 steps. I got to do the 10 steps because that's what you need. So you have to understand that I'm 50 years old. I've been doing events now for 42 years. I want to say 50 years, but yeah, I started doing them when I was about 8. So I have a lot of experience. So please don't feel overwhelmed in this. I think you've all gotten probably some great tips that if you don't get any of the rest of the stuff ever, you're still going to have way better events than a lot of your competitors. All right, but here are some of my tried and true events. And if we do a retreat and we have like a Friday night social, I'll tell you some of the funny stories that happened that helped me to learn these lessons. Number 1, pack your car the night before. Have everything in the car that you need. I use tote bags for my events. So I'm an author, so I have books for sale. I have change, 1s and 10s and 5s and even quarters. So I have a money bag. So I have sort of like a tote bag that has my books and my money, how I take my money. I have another folder where I might pack my flyers and my handouts and my business cards. And when I do have a book event, I have a poster of my book. So that goes in a tote bag. So all those tote bags go into the car the night before. So I don't have to do that day. I'm very lucky to have 3 men that will do that for me. But I've done it myself too during certain times. Pack your car the day before. So the day of, the first thing you want to do is remember your intention. You remembered to ask for a garbage can. You remembered for special music. You remembered for a photographer. Oh, you forgot the list for the photographer. You do the list now, right? All that hecticness, you need to take a breath and remember the intention. So I'm here today. My intention today is to inspire you to have amazing, influential events. That's the most important thing about today. Whether I accidentally forgot to tell you about flyers or not, the purpose today is to inspire you to have events that influence other people. So if you just take a moment to remember your intention, it will really help your event be more of what it's meant to be. Okay. If you need to, and if you're into this, you want to ground yourself before by using some meditation or some essential oils or lighting a special candle. I have a candle here that's a very special candle to me that I have when I'm doing special things. And it's a candle that I got in North Carolina when I was there with Paul on a getaway. And I don't like to burn it a lot because I want it to last a long time. So whatever you do that helps you to be grounded, do that. Remember to make, I think the rest of it I've already covered. Don't overbook yourself, make your event an experience. Here's something that I think is a really important and special thing to do, and I don't know anybody else that does it. I've never seen anybody else do it. I do it, and that's sending an email reminder the day before saying, I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow. As a reminder, we're going to be meeting at 9 a.m. at the blah, blah, blah hotel, and here's the address again. So many people have thanked me for this. The real reason I did it was because people were calling me, and I didn't want them calling me because so many people were calling me. But now I know how it is. You put it on your calendar, but you forgot to put the address. So here's the address. And as a reminder, they have lots of free parking. So now she doesn't have to worry about that. Or if they don't have free parking, I say, there's a lot here. You want to park in this garage. This is the best parking garage to park in for this place. I send that in an email the day before, okay? If you are going to partner with somebody, if you're going to be partnered with someone to do an event together, be sure that it's a good partnership. Make sure that that person is either equal to you in success, integrity, level of their business, or they're better than you. Because it's not your job to help them grow their business. Your job right now is to grow your business. When your business is thriving, then you can mentor other people. But right now, for some of you, it's going to make a lot of sense for you to partner with other people to have an event and make sure that's a good partnership, okay? And practice and prepare. Make sure you practice your presentation, especially whether it's in person, whether it's virtual, if you're using slides, make sure that you practice that ahead of time. And if you're going to an event venue, you want to go early, very early, to set up that audio visual, because you want that audio visual set up before anybody walks in the room. Brian, my son Brian, has been with me where we've gone to an event an hour and 15 minutes early, and somebody's already there. Beth, hi, I wanted to ask you, I'm so glad I hoped you would be early, and I really need to set this up. So we go 2 hours, sometimes 2.5 hours earlier. So that room is set up before the early people come in, right? If you're doing a webinar event, a virtual event, shut your phone off. We saw that before. Shut the phone off. And I have had to do this before. Lots of funny stories. I've been doing a webinar meeting with Steve Harvey, and he says, Miss Caldwell, how come your neighbors always be cutting their grass when we're talking? I can't help it. It was like every Wednesday night, my neighbors would start cutting their grass as soon as I got on my meeting phone with the Success Institute. It was crazy. Or their dogs would be out. So, make sure that you shut your doors, turn down the air conditioning if you need to, whatever. But I have a note that goes on my door that says webinar recording, or I put recording in process. Please don't knock or ring. One time, I know we're late, but I will tell you this. So I'm here in my dining room now. So there's a window right here, and it's floor level. I'm on the first floor of my house. So one time a religious group was here with good news, and they came walking up, and I saw them, and I was like, don't you knock on my door. Don't you knock on my door. Please don't knock on my door. Well, sure enough, they came and knocked on my door, and I didn't answer because I was doing a webinar, and then they came over and knocked on the window like, we have good news, right? So, and they're thinking she's pretending not to see me. They're young people. And I wasn't. I was working. So I was like, all right, how can I fix that from happening again? So I used big magic marker, webinar, or I don't put webinar, I just put recording in process. Do not knock or ring bell. And that goes on my door. It also goes on my window now because I learned, oh, look, I should put that up there to block the sunlight, huh? That looks pretty good. I'll have to do that for next time. Okay, last tip for you. Oh, really important thing for your local events, or for your webinar events. We'll talk about this more. Cold drink, hot drink, tissues. You want to have those things nearby you. You don't want to have to get up and walk away from the camera when you're talking. Same thing on stage. A cold drink, a hot drink, and a box of tissues with you always. Okay, that's it. That's it for you. I went almost 15 minutes over and I cut a bunch out, so I apologize for that, but I'm also happy and grateful that you've all stayed a little longer. So let me go down here. And a lot of you are still here. I think we only lost one. Do I have any questions? I know there's a place on here where people can type in the chat. I've already got, here we go, questions. No questions. All right. So listen, I will see you guys next Wednesday at 10 a.m. and I will see you in the Facebook group. I want to know what you're motivated, what inspired you today, and what your next plan is. So you guys have a great afternoon, and I will talk to you next week. Bye-bye.